All right, guys, today's video on Locality Boa Basics is about thermostat probe placement and setting your thermostat temperatures and adjusting them. And so, big picture, I'm going to divide your heat sources into two different types. Overhead heat like this, or a heat panel, or a ceramic heat emitter, or a one of those deep heat projectors, or anything that's overhead, usually a higher power concentrated heat source. And the other type would be belly heat, so heat mats, heat tape on a rack, things like that. And the big concept I want you to know about probe placement is you want to place your probe close to the heat source. So here you see on overhead, that means I dangle them like right below the heat source. Over here, I don't know, let me see, sorry. Today's a good day because I have some cages ripped up so you can see, but on a heat panel, you have it dangling a few inches below the heat panel. Deep heat projectors is dangling below the few inches below the deep heat projector. And on belly heat, the probe is taped with electrical tape directly to the heat mat. So here's the bottom of a cage that has a heat mat on it. Here's my heat probe. It's in here. And when you're doing this, you have to be careful you're not pinching wires of the mat. But the big concept here is you want to place your probe directly or as close to the heat source as possible. And the reason being is, here's the analogy that I use. It's like walking a dog on a very short leash versus a long leash. And by that, I mean that dog or the heater is going to be doing what it's doing, and you're trying to make your inputs through a long lead. So if that probe was way down at the bottom, there's quite a bit of distance between you and the heat source, and there's a flagging feedback on how it's controlling it. So it makes it more dangerous. If that probe gets bumped, dislodged, anything like that, the heat source can be firing fully away. So close to the heat source and very securely attached. So here I have a hole drilled through the top of the cage, a little overhand knot on the top and the bottom, so that probe cannot go up and down. Okay, up in these cages, a lot of these cages, they are built like that already, so they have a probe, or you can pin them securely with cable ties every couple inches. The idea is you don't want to allow that to move. On belly heat, you do not want to have sorry, I'm trying to show you examples of belly heat probes. You do not want to have it inside the cage, the probe inside the cage. You want to have it directly on the heat source. I don't know if you can see it in there, but that's my probe underneath that black tape, and it is securely taped, and that way the thermostat is controlling the heater directly, and then you set your temperatures relative to what they are seen in the cage. So in this cage, for example, I have my heat probe in the back. You can see it. And the hottest part of my cage is right here. That's the temperature I'm getting right now, 88.3. But my thermostat is actually set at 84.7. And so the idea is the temperature you set on your thermostat is kind of irrelevant, and you set it based on what you see in your cage. So like in this cage over here, I actually think this thermostat probe on the belly heat is set at about 88 to 90. And right now you're seeing a surface temperature of about 84 in there with that temperature probe. So the big ideas with this is that you want to directly and securely attach your probe close to your heat source, whether that be belly heat or whether that be overhead heat, and then set your temperatures relative to what you're actually seeing inside the cage. And the last thing I will tell you is that on belly heat and in racks, I always mark the shelf where the probe is, because if you, like, say this rack was not full and you just pulled this drawer out, it would affect the dynamics of that probe and it would change the heat in your whole rack. So you never want to leave the slot where the probe is empty or with the tub upside down. So I always mark all my racks where the probes are so I know where they are. That's just a tip. Take care. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.